Hello again, it's been a while. I know I said I would get multiple parts of this out, and I am doing that, but my life is very hectic. I need to prioritize my safety and my health, and sometimes that includes not engaging with rough topics such as this. But I'm here now, and I'm ready to continue what I started. I'm going to read off a few lines I had from the first video intro because I believe they are important to have before I begin my explanations. Also, I hope audio doesn't echo. I am recording in an echoey place, so there's that, but this is the most private place I could find, and because these are hard topics, I prefer to not do it in a house full of my family. First of all, if you are a young child, do not watch this. This situation is filled with very traumatic adult topics that would even be hard for most adults to watch and or engage with. Second of all, before I go into this, I want to stress that I do believe to an extent that age does excuse actions. It would be one thing if Doma still did these things, but she does not. This is a photo of how the human brain develops, and it does not finish until 25. The reason kids cannot drive, consent, or vote is because they are so underdeveloped. Most 11-year-olds cannot even cook. I will be bringing up her age in this a lot because it's very relevant. And third of all, if you've had anything you would like to ask, feel free to do so politely in the comments. If the comments are paused or turned off, it is for my health and safety. They will be turned on again eventually. People can be very cruel, especially regarding this situation, and lack nuance. The screenshots to back up my claims will be put on screen. With that being said, I will begin the video now. Trigger warnings will be placed on screen between intersections and also in the description. Thank you. Now, obviously, the accusation of being a neo-Nazi and supporting Hitler is extremely serious. People's lives are ruined, they are hate-crimed and discriminated against because of this awful group in sub-politics. Which is why throwing around the term so loosely because of a mistake a child made at 11 is absolutely awful, deplorable even. It downplays serious things. When Doma was at the oldest of 11, she was getting into the hardcore or breakbeat music genre. Back in the day, one of the characters in many covers on popular songs was known as Jackal Queenston, and his design was based off of a Nazi uniform. I won't give away where Doma lives because obviously that's not public business, but she has grown up in a not very progressive area. The state she is in is not known for its good education either. Her state teaches history of World War II in grade 8, and obviously 11-year-olds aren't in 8th grade. She was very uneducated and vaguely knew that Hitler existed and that he was a bad person, but not the extent of his actions or everything he did or even about the Nazi party. Just that Hitler was a bad guy. You can even tell that Doma didn't know what it was because just like in Jackal Queenston's art, the drawings she did have X's on the armband instead of a swastika. She only began using the word Nazi or the swastika label because the people around her seeing the OC uniform began pushing that concept. She did not know what a Nazi was, she only knew that her friends told her that the uniform she drew made her OC one, which is what sparked this screenshot. This was not a malicious attempt to support or become a member of any current-day neo-Nazi groups. This was an uninformed statement by a child who was told the uniform she drew made her OC a Nazi, without knowing what a Nazi was. There were also screenshots given where Doma even expressed she did not support Hitler. Like I said, she didn't know the full history of everything, but she knew that Hitler was a very bad person. She knew he caused harm and was starkly against his actions, even at this age. Once Doma's parents discovered what she was drawing, they sat her down and gave her a proper rundown on the history of Nazis that was age-appropriate. Doma realized what she had done and made a public apology and removed any sort of Nazi uniform on her OC. People still like to claim that Doma is still a neo-Nazi to this day, even though she never was one. She loves learning about all sorts of cultures, and she's made this very clear. Not to mention, Doma is a queer Mexican and would have historically been impacted and harmed by Nazis. Hell, people like her still are impacted by neo-Nazis today. And obviously, being a Mexican and queer wouldn't help get her any exception in alt-right spaces like neo-Nazi groups. If people actually cared about serious oppression issues and the harm Nazis caused, they would understand what a Nazi is. And Doma is not by any means a Nazi. She never was. As for the two art pieces she drew of a game character in the Nazi uniform, because even if this is meant to be a timeline-focused video, I know if I don't say anything about 2024, people will freak out and say I'm ignoring it. This can also be explained through what I've previously discussed in prior videos. Doma was a young and easily influenced child, being no older than 14 at the time of these drawings. Even to this day, Doma refused to be offered any support or kindness in spaces she had never interacted with. This kind of social isolation on top of her past issues made her easy to exploit, and once left alone with the only worst of the worst, or other kids in her same position, they were both enabled by predators and enabled by each other in an unhealthy, toxic friendship group. Doma had publicly addressed these and is staunchly anti-Nazi and has no hatred against Jewish people nor anyone from any culture. This clears up anything relating to that topic aside from a few edgy jokes made when she was very young as an act to get attention. Her actions have never held hatred, but they have held extreme immaturity and should not be glorified, nor should they be repeated by anyone. I have to admit that aside from other issues that I've discussed in this, I genuinely do not see this one as an issue. I've become much more educated on this since I was a 13-year-old girl, and I really don't understand why people are still mad about this. When I first wrote the document, all I knew was that Alfred's Playhouse was an edgy show that had imagery that glorified Nazis. Obviously, that is a bad thing and probably ties back into the reason people believe Doma is a neo-Nazi. Alfred's Playhouse is an old internet series from the 2000s that depicted a woman's mental state deteriorating through the veil of an animated dog. The series shows things such as gore, derealization, manic episodes, sexual assault, and all sorts of reactions to trauma. I've spoken to several people and done my own research on the show itself, and I personally believe that someone liking Alfred's Playhouse is not a bad thing. No, the series should not have a fandom since its topics are far too heavy and also personal to its creator, but enjoying the media is not wrong. Art is meant to make you feel something, to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comforted. Several victims of all sorts of trauma, including CSA, have spoken out and say they find comfort in Alfred's Playhouse because of how scarily accurate the depiction of abuse and mental struggles are. Doma, who is someone who has a lot of childhood trauma, including things that regard to topics such as sexual abuse, and since she's been abused in several other ways, she's able to resonate with the show. I even personally find comfort in the artwork, and it helped me realize some things I really needed when I was too unwell to recognize it on my own, and I have no doubt that this has happened with other people. Doma is starkly against Emily Eucas and everything she has done, and obviously does not support her. Just like the majority of people who like Alfred's Playhouse. They find it interesting and comforting, but they don't support Emily Eucas. Watching a re-uploaded animation on YouTube of an old Newground series did not mean someone directly supports Emily or anything that she has done. Doma is allowed to discuss what she finds interesting in the show with those that she's close with if they are comfortable, and is allowed to find comfort in disturbing media. The art can be separated from the artist. I know in some cases it cannot be, but with the case of Alfred's Playhouse, it very well can be. Another large accusation thrown at Doma is the creation of child porn, or the proper term would be child sexual abuse material, CSAM. I'm here to say that Doma has never drawn either of these, or whatever you want to call it. There are two instances where these accusations were brought up by me in the past. One was with an ageless OC, which I will cover first. When Doma was 11 to early 12, they had an OC for the Dave and Bambi fandom named Sir Bamdoo. Sir Bamdoo wasn't exactly given an age by Doma, but was rather meant to be a personified computer virus. They were smaller than the rest of the Dave and Bambi characters, but that was overall just an aesthetic design choice. There were no features that made Sir Bamdoo childlike compared to other characters in Doma's art. He was just smaller and had no age. Because of Doma's hypersexuality, they did end up drawing NSFW art of Sir Bamdoo at the time. With how small he was, I assumed that this counted as child porn, or specifically shota or loli art. Obviously, there was no intention to sexualize children through this, and Doma was literally 12 at the oldest. This might be controversial to say, and I wish it wasn't, but when minors make NSFW of underage characters, they are not doing it in the same way an adult would. Children see other children as mature, as equal to them, since it's their age. An adult being predatory with minors in art is so different from a child making an honest mistake while exploring their hormones. Of course, this should be discouraged, but it is not and never will be insanely problematic, let alone enough to accuse someone of having a pedophilia. The second accusation, which I also shamefully made, was that Doma drew CSAM because she had made a lewd drawing of herself when she was 12. This drawing was, first of all, private, and second of all, vent art to cope with her disorders. This should have never been leaked, and honestly, if a person, especially a child, needs to vent out feelings to cope with something as impactful as hypersexuality when they don't have proper access to therapy, I couldn't give a rat's ass if they make dark art to let out those feelings. Pornography is meant to be lewd, sexual, and cause arousal. It's made for someone to get off. Vent art is the expression of serious emotions through artistic depictions some might find disturbing. A naked body does not always mean something lewd, and sexual topics being shown does not always mean something is pornography. Even when vent art is sexual, its purpose is to let out strong feelings in a healthy way, not to make porn. And even if it wasn't vent art and it just happened to be a lewd drawing Doma made of herself, I still don't really care, and nobody should either. The only concern should be the child's safety, because obviously something is wrong if they are drawing themselves like that. Just as I discussed in the previous section, a child drawing an NSFW of themselves or other minors is extremely different to an adult doing so. These instances took place mostly around 2021 to 2022 when Doma was about 12 at the oldest. There are some other instances taking place in early 2024 when Doma was around the previously discussed toxic friend group. I'm not denying these happened, but as I said previously, she was influenced and it didn't happen as often, nor was it documented very much. Yada yada yada, you get the gist. Basically, I'm not going to repeat myself every single time something is repeated in 2024, and rather focus on actions that took place when she was younger, since those still require an explanation. Like I've discussed previously, Doma lives in a conservative area where education isn't known for being the best. I want to once again emphasize how growing up in these areas where things like racism, bigotry, and slurs are normalized, it is going to have an impact on a child, especially when said child is as young as Doma was. It is not rare to find an instance of a child under 13 saying bigoted or offensive things just because they heard it from their peers or adults around them. They had no idea why it was wrong, alongside being pressured by their peers, so they just do it. Most of Doma's more offensive statements she made when she was younger were done out of lack of education and childhood naivety, not an actual hatred for anyone around her. There is one instance I want to touch on that stands out, which would be Doma's use of the N-word at age 12. I've already set down the fact that Doma didn't understand the impact of a slur like this when she was so little, but there were also other factors playing into this. Doma had a small friend group at the time, made up of people from all different races and cultures, and one of these people happened to be a black person. This was the early 2020s and so close to 2018 to 2019, and if you were anywhere around adolescence at that age, you would remember a very popular meme or trend about the N-word pass. Obviously, there is no pass for a non-black person to say the N-word, just like there's no pass to say any slur that someone isn't able to reclaim. But when everyone around her is talking about this trend and it's hammered into her head that this pass exists and she's 12, a child at such a young age is going to believe this. Doma's black friend told Doma that she had the pass and allowed Doma to say it around them in their friend group. This also led Doma to saying slurs outside of the group because she was under the impression that she has some type of permission to do so. Her using the N-word was wrong, obviously, and there's no instance where a non-black person could say that word and have it be okay. But just like how so many children at the time used gay as an insult or commonly threw around the word retard, it wasn't an actual act of hatred for any marginalized group, but rather a child taking part in monkey see, monkey do. Once Doma was properly talked to, she actually used some save-up money to donate to charity groups for African Americans and other groups that she had impacted. Just like I concluded in the section surrounding neo-Nazi accusations, Doma's actions never stemmed from bigotry, but childhood naivety. Alright, I was going to end the video on the previous section, but I honestly believe that this is one of the more important and jarring claims made, because of how serious it is. I am going to discuss it here. In 2022, Doma had posted art on Twitter involving a character that was, for all intents and purposes, a dog. The character was emphasized to be described as dumb and shown to not have the capacity to consent. There were multiple drawings that I will not show, and in fact, nobody should be showing, of this character engaging sexually with another one of Doma's OCs. And there were also drawings of this character with animal genitalia. Screenshots also leaked of Doma sharing feral NSFW animations on Discord amongst other people. To a lot of people, including 14-year-old me, this felt cut and dry. But it's not. Just like I spoke on with the claims regarding child sexual abuse drawings, a child making and posting any NSFW content is extremely concerning, especially when it contains illegal depictions and disturbing content such as this. If I wanted to run with the story I had at age 14 and still claim that Doma just wanted to draw it with no outside reference, that would still not make Doma a bad person because she was a little girl. She had obviously been exposed to something that she should not have seen and was replicating that. This situation called for concern, action, support, and care. I didn't even try to ask Doma for her side of the story, which is what I'm going to share now. As discussed in previous sections and videos, Doma was exposed to all sorts of NSFW content when she was under the age of 10. This had a huge impact on her health, as most children with hypersexuality, Doma ended up in unsafe places and seeking out more hardcore and gross topics. At age 12, Doma had begun engaging with a 20-year-old via Twitter DMs, one who had shown interest in her content, including her NSFW art. I do not know who this person was, I don't have anything on them, but I do have Doma's word. This predator encouraged Doma to draw her animal OCs in these depictions and exploited Doma as means to get themselves off. Doma was not the issue in this situation, and she never was. It was a disgusting abuser that stood behind the scenes. I've attempted to bring this point up in debates about the topic, and I'm often faced with, well, she drew it anyways. This is blatant victim blaming. This goes for most things Doma was involved in, but especially for this case, claiming that, while she still chose to do it, implies that Doma, an 11 to 13-year-old girl, somehow was educated and mature enough to understand these topics. And I hate to burst your bubble here, but minors cannot consent. There will never be a situation where a minor is mature enough to understand the weight of making any type of NSFW content because their brains are so underdeveloped they can barely cook more than a scrambled egg. No, minors do not know what they are doing or comprehend things when making problematic art. Later on, in 2023, Doma drew adult art of a furry OC with animal genitalia. At the time, this seemed like Doma was ignoring what she was taught in regards to the last issue. But this isn't the case at all, and mind you, if it was, a child relapsing due to trauma isn't means to harass them. What actually happened was that after the first situation, Doma had been put under the impression that the issue with what she created was that her OC could not consent and didn't have a developed brain. She never realized why drawing animal genitalia on a consenting adult character was wrong. She was also told by her friend group at the time that this was okay to do. Doma's old account we had this discussion on is deleted, but I recall me explaining to her why depicting animal genitalia is still an issue, and she was very open and receptive to it, and even apologized to me. Since then, Doma has not engaged with any content relating to feral NSFW. Oh, but I know you're all waiting for me to say the thing. The hardcore proof Doma's an evil zoophile. Okay, I'll say the thing. No, Doma did not rape a dog. Just because someone posts a shitty fake 4chan screenshot with the name Doma on it does not mean it's true. Doma has already addressed this, and I'm not even going to give it the time of day because it's the dumbest claim I've ever seen. I apologize for the occasional stutter or slip up in the video. I did my best to correct them, but it happens, and I don't want to re-record 5 minutes of me talking just to fix one little mistake. Thank you so much for listening to me. In all cases of internet drama, it's important to educate yourself instead of just listening to shitty TikTok slime rants that spew bullshit. I appreciate your willingness to learn, especially in situations as serious as this one. Doma is currently working on developing a game to help teach kids how to be safe and to protect them from what she went through. Have a wonderful day. Lots of love. Thank you.